So if you look at the more traditional type of therapy or even hypnotherapy, NLP, you're probably pretty familiar, guys, with something called deepeners. And essentially what this is supposed to do is when your client is moving more into a relaxed state, you can use deepening processes, language patterns, sentences to obviously push them deeper, with the understanding to some extent that the deeper a client goes, the more access you have to their unconscious mind. Well, I'm going to challenge that a little bit today because I get this question a lot, which is, what are the best deepeners for conversational hypnosis? Now, when I explain this, what I'm not going to talk about is like, what's the perfect sentence, Scott? Do you say things like, as you drift, you'll go deeper, and with every breath, you'll go deeper still, 10 times deeper? I'm not talking about those deepeners. Now, I've talked about on other videos why getting a client deep into trance, especially when you're looking at the aspect of this conversational hypnosis stuff, it's irrelevant. A client does not have to go to a certain depth to have a breakthrough. Now, on top of that, I'm not going to also I'll talk about this in another video. I do not want to talk about, as far as depth and therapy and having the breakthrough, because realize a lot of the stuff the more traditional therapy is doing is irrelevant when it comes to real therapeutic breakthroughs, but we'll stay on track here. So is there such a thing as deepeners for conversational hypnosis? Absolutely not, but a little bit yes, but it might not be what you're thinking. So when it comes to doing the therapy for your client, we've talked about this on other videos before, when it comes to doing this ACH, this advanced conversational hypnosis style, we like to do the therapy first, and then the byproduct of the therapy is the hypnosis, is the trance, is the depth. Where if you look at more traditional therapies, they do that first and they do the therapy afterwards. So if there was such a thing as a deepener, this is what it would be. By simply asking your client what their problem is, where does your client have to go? Okay, inside their mind. Well, we all know that clients' problems exist in the unconscious or subconscious, superconscious. It's all the same thing, guys. It exists in the unconscious mind. So the very art of asking a client what their problem is and then investigating this, we call this the hypnotic interview, investigating the problem to look for that, what is the real root cause. A client has to go deeper, to an extent deeper, into trance. Why? We know the unconscious mind will block off certain information, okay? Which means that we could say as a metaphor, the problem is deeper. It's deeper inside the mind. It's hard to get to and it's hard to navigate. So by asking a client, what's the problem, which is the best way to start any therapeutic intervention, the client will say, well, Scott, I'm a smoker and I want to quit. Okay. Now they've given me their conclusion. They've given me a little bit more information. Then I might say, well, what's stopping you from being able to quit? Then they're going to have to think. Thinking is trance. What they're basically doing as a metaphor is going into the unconscious to find the answer for my question. Thus, they're going further into the unconscious mind. They'll give me some more information. I'm going to ask another question based on that to navigate towards the root cause. They're going to go back into the unconscious, obviously a little bit deeper, to find the next part of the information. Things like a set of stairs. They're going down the stairs to use that more traditional deepening style to find the next part of the information. So what am I saying here? Well, the very art of really asking a client what their problem is putting your client deeper. Meaning that the more questions you ask, the deeper a client has to go. So what I'm really saying here is we want to go beyond just the traditional stuff of telling the client to float and go deeper and deeper, because obviously the understanding is the deeper a client goes, the more access to the unconscious mind you get, which is completely fictitious. It's not real. It doesn't work like that. So what we're saying is, especially in the conversation hypnosis style, I'm doing the actual therapy, but asking a client what their problem is and further finding new information, a client has to go deeper. Realize this when it comes to therapy and your client having a breakthrough, guys. Your client doesn't have to have a certain depth. Their unconscious mind, which is vastly more intelligent than you are as a person, because it's their unconscious mind, will take them as deep as they need to go. It'll take them into trance as far as they need to go. It'll give them the resource. It'll give them everything. But I see therapists and coaches, NLPs are in so much of a rush to try and force this trance. They're trying to force the deepener. They're trying to get the suggestibility test. They're trying to get the access to the unconscious mind by putting a client deeper. That's a lot of work you have to do as a therapist. And that's why the traditional type of therapy takes so goddamn long, because it violates a lot of the rules of the unconscious mind from your client. But I'll sort of digress past that. So if you want to put a client into the right depth, that's the underlined word here, the right depth for them to have the right breakthrough that suits them perfectly, just ask about their problem. Use the hypnotic interview. We've taught this on other videos before, to ask what, where, who, why, when questions to find out more information, to get the context of the problem, and know that each time you ask a question and they give you a response plus a follow-up question that you ask them next, they are going quote unquote deep enough, and the unconscious mind of your client will take them as deep as they need to go to have a breakthrough. It goes beyond just putting your client so deep into relaxation. That's what deepeners do. It doesn't mean you get access to the unconscious mind. It just means that you're putting them more into relaxation. And we know a client does not have to be relaxed to have a therapeutic breakthrough. But if you look at the more traditional therapies, the more traditional style of being taught hypnotherapy, what do they concentrate on? The hypnosis part, the language patterns, the trance, the deepeners, the suggestibility tests. But realize this, when your client creates a problem, it gets created unconsciously, which means that if we want to have a breakthrough and find a client's root cause, we can just use the very mechanics of how a client created the problem in the first place. If you think about any of your own problems, guys, when you created a quote unquote problem in your life, did you have to do a suggestibility test? Did you have to push yourself deeper? Did you have to give yourself language patterns? Did you have to use a regression? Did you have to use a memory or an emotion? No, you did it spontaneously. And the very mechanics of how you created your own problems, just like your clients, we can use as the therapeutic breakthrough. So guys, forget about the deepness, forget about the language patterns. Again, that's not what I'm talking about here. By simply asking a client about their problem and getting the context, a client will go into trance, which almost means like you're killing 2 to 3 birds with one stone. And this will vastly speed up the breakthrough. It'll also allow you to spend less time with clients and spend more time on the part that's important, which is the therapy. Now, in a video coming up very, very soon, depending on when I post this video, I'm going to talk about why we do therapy first and not hypnosis. And I'll actually tell you guys a cool little story of why I stopped using hypnosis, even though I was a hypnotherapist. So stay tuned for that, guys.